Hey, what's up guys? It is Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I got on the tables for you today is a talk about Cassandra. Now, Cassandra's been a staple character in the Soul Calibur franchise since Soul Calibur 2, obviously. Sophitia's little sister and claim to her sword and shield, apparently. She's just as responsible with them, and she follows almost the same path, but with different manners. We all know who she is. But today's video is more about the implications of her time escapades that I want to say that occurred in Soul Calibur 6, especially within her Soul Chronicle. So, for those of you who don't know, the Cassandra from Soul Calibur 4, essentially, the one that got stuck in the astral plane after Sophitia died, she got stuck in the astral plane through a fissure. And she's been time skipping this entire time, apparently, to try and prevent her sister from dying, and from also trying to find her sister, because perhaps maybe there's a version out for her sister out there that she's alive, which like she finds in Soul Calibur 6. But before I get into the actual implications of it, I want to go over a little bit of the lore, just to lay down a baseline for what we're going to be expecting when we're having this conversation. So, in Soul Calibur 4, as I said, she actually went into the astral chaos, but that came about from her sister, Sophitia. She found her collapsed body in one of the castle rooms that she was exploring while she was looking for her. So, another rift opened, like, right in front of her, and then a few moments later, the castle surrounding returned normal, but there was no sign of Cassandra. So that being said, obviously she like transported over to another dimension, or another timeline, if you will. And then like I found this tidbit of lore on Wikipedia that I forgot about, so I wanted to read this to you real quick. It says, in her wanderings inside the astral chaos, Cassandra ends up in a parallel world and is found by Edgemaster. After meeting the player, she sets off on a journey with him to find the fragments of Soul Edge. Upon arriving at the Urida Shrine, Cassandra is relieved to find Sophitia in this world alive and well, but wonders if she will ever see her true sister again. So that's what leads up to the events of Soul Calibur 6. And as we know, in Soul Calibur 6, Sophitia is alive and well, because this is a reboot, and Cassandra is, this timeline's Cassandra, is going on a journey to pretty much defeat the evil sword, so that Cassandra won't be needed by the gods, and she can actually settle down with her fiance and live like a normal happy life. That's all Cassandra really wants for her sister. And she doesn't think it's fair that like just because she's like chosen and powered by the gods, that she has to like go on this epic journey and leave everything about herself sacrificed aside. And being that she loves her and wants to see her happy, she tries to take on this burden for herself, and she goes off on a journey to actually stop it, so there's no need for Sophitia to actually go out and do these feats. So in Soul Calibur 6, it starts out where we say, over the years, Cassandra's grip on her sanity began to slip and her appearance slightly changed. Driven by the desire to save her sister, one day an astral fissure opens up and she is confronted with her past self. Half crazed. However, she launches herself in a frenzy after her younger counterpart but ultimately loses. Back to her senses, she warms up to her past self. She warns her past self of the grim future that awaits her family, about the death of Sophitia, and the cursed fate that her daughter would have to live up through as a result. When the younger Cassandra asks who she is, she seems to have forgotten, the thought of protecting her sister being her only companion before she fades away. So this implies heavily that Sophitia from Soul Calibur 4 didn't actually die, but she's been literally hopping around for about 17 years trying to go through different fissures to try and find a way to...
Hey, what's up guys? Have you always wanted some sweet Mark Yoon merch? Maybe a thick U shirt, maybe a shirt from Squirt, maybe my pretty face with my logo all over your body, or a throw pillow, or blanket, or anything? Well, you're in luck, because I just launched my merch store, and it is going to be available on Redbubble, and you will find a link to it in my description box down below. It's got a lot of quality content, and a lot of good stuff for you to pick up, so you can show your support for the channel, and just rep Mark Yoon. Alright guys, as always, thick U.
Get back to her own timeline in the past, so that she can warn her past self of things to come. Now, this isn't the same timeline as it was from Soul Calibur 4, and obviously with the problems that we had with Soul Calibur 5, that's why they call this a soft reboot, because we're pretty much starting from the events after 4, and we're kind of disregarding 5 almost entirely. But you can tell that in the previous timeline, 5 does exist. That's why she warns her of Sophitia's children, which are the main protagonists and antagonists simultaneously of Soul Calibur 5. Obviously, with the budgetary constraints and stuff with Soul Calibur 5, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. We've talked about this a million times before. They obviously couldn't finish the story mode. They chopped off like more than 70% of it, and all that was left was the bits and pieces that had to do with like Sophitia's children. So a lot of people had a bad taste in their mouth after that, and with 6 they decided to make that a different timeline, and we're going to start fresh from the events of Soul Calibur 2 and so Soul Calibur 1 and 2 and so forth from Soul Calibur 6. So there are many implications to her meeting herself this way, and however many past selves she's also met. So it's sufficient to say that if she's using the astral fissures and she's lost herself, she doesn't really have a clear generalized consensus of like how to go about things. She has one mission, one goal, similar to how Grow is kind of seen, and that is to save Sophitia. So with her encountering all these different variations of herself, because we know this is not the first time she's popped into another astral fissure, she's been ongoingly doing this, and her sanity has been dwindling ever since. Perhaps because she keeps on trying to warn these Cassandras of the impending doom, and it just keeps repeating itself time and time again. But now that we're in a new timeline entirely, the possibility arises that she could actually effectively change things for the future. So a lot of people are surmising that this new soft reboot is not so much to get rid of Soul Calibur 5, but to amend Soul Calibur 5. So we're eventually going to run into the same timeline that Soul Calibur 5 has. And I think this Cassandra stuff is actually not just a quick little snippet in her Soul Chronicle. I believe it's actually foreshadowing for what's to come. So it's been pretty similar up to this point about what's already happened in the past, but I think that the divergence actually comes with Cassandra herself. So with Cassie meeting herself, now she has the knowledge of the future, and she has like even more of a reason to protect Sophitia. Maybe she'll even do it by force, who knows. Maybe she'll prevent the marriage from actually coming to fruition, even though in the Soul Calibur Chronicle they do actually get married, but we don't know what the use of the soul fissures are. Edgemaster is involved, especially since he's seen in Libra of Souls mode. So there's a lot of things that she could do to actually try to prevent this. People have also said on my last video that Algol is not actually controlling the strings of Aswell that much. It's that he wants to be reborn, so he's kind of like still using Aswell, but like the conduit that we're representing was supposed to be the rebirth of Algol, since we can control the astral fissures and the chaos magic. But back to Cassandra, like she definitely now going forward is not going to repeat the same events that we saw maybe throughout Soul Calibur 3 and Soul Calibur 4. So taking less of a backseat in Soul Calibur 2, Cassandra was the main character replacing Sophitia, because Sophitia was like not really there. And Cassandra was pretty much taking on her, I say, trials. I don't know if that's going to happen now, because now it's already changed that Sophitia is married and everything's fine. So perhaps we're going to see a team up of sorts, or maybe we're going to see Cassandra just completely taking over her role for her and letting her just live her happy life. But that's not like we can have end ties being cut there, because if everyone remembers, she still has a piece of the evil sword shard inside of her, which can either kill her or, corrupt her at any time. And being visited by certain shadowy figures and stuff in her own Soul Chronicle that are pretty much talking like they're the gods. It could be like Aswell, or it could be even Algol, like the soul of Algol from the past timeline, trying to push things forward so that he can be reborn. There's a lot of implications that are underlining behind that, and I think it leads to a fun conversation about what we can possibly see in the future with these characters. So, implications aside, that's going to be tomorrow's video. So I want you guys to give me your best, hypotheses and theories in the comment section down below about the implications behind her visiting herself. Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's not a big deal? Do you think this is foreshadowing on purpose to try and diverge away from the way Soul Calibur 5 was handled, and to kind of repeat Soul Calibur 5 but do it in a way that is actually true to the lore and the way the fans kind of wanted things to be seen? Or do you just think that like it was just thrown in there for a Soul Chronicle ending and it's not much to speak of? And give me also your thoughts about what you think is going to come or transpire from here, and I'm going to be talking about my thoughts on that tomorrow. So visit me back tomorrow and we will find out what I believe the future of Soul Calibur series is going to happen based on the actions of Cassandra from Soul Calibur 4. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to a close, and as always, thank you and thick you.
Boy.